I'm happy to welcome you to another story. This is the story of Zlateh the goat. She's a nanny goat. She gives milk. And this story takes place in Poland 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 150, maybe even 200 years ago, when my great-grandfather lived there, and my great-great-grandfather, and my great-great-great-grandfather, when my ancestors lived in Eastern Europe. It takes place in a little Jewish village, a chateau, a little village in the rural part of Poland. In order to get into the mood for this story, I have some music to play for you that belongs to the Jewish people of Eastern Europe. Now in the village, there was a family. Reuben, the father, made a living as a furrier, and he lived together with his wife Leah and his 3 children. Aaron, the oldest, at 12. Maybe some of you are 12 or thereabouts. And his 2 little sisters, Miriam and Anna. Now, what is a furrier? A furrier is someone who makes fur coats, fur hats, and fur scarves, makes them and sells them, and then repairs them. Look, here's a fur coat. Here's a beautiful coat that Reuben has made. And here's another one. This one, made from a brown lamb's skin, a beautiful, warm, wool coat for a cold, cold winter. But there was a certain problem. The winter was extremely mild, even in December. The Jewish people were waiting and preparing for their Hanukkah festival, the festival of lights that comes in December, with candles and dreidels, spinning tops, and latkes, potato pancakes. Yum, that's delicious. But things were not so good for Reuben. Nobody was buying fur coats. The winter was so mild. The fields were growing green grass, and the farmers were still growing vegetables. They were having a good time, but the poor furrier had become as poor as a pauper. The family was running out of money, and they didn't know how they could prepare for the Hanukkah festival and buy potatoes and oil and candles and dreidels and gifts for the children. Oh, well, it's hard. But the family had an old but beloved goat, Zlateh. Zlateh was an old nanny goat. She had given lots of milk in her time. Now she was only now and then, or then and now, she gave some milk. And Reuben had to make the hard choice. He had to send Zlateh to town, to the city, to Camphill the butcher. Camphill will make her into, into meat to eat, and pay the family wonderfully with 5 golden coins. And with that, they would have money to buy all the things for Hanukkah and a lot more. So it was the task of the oldest boy, Aaron, to take Zlateh to town to Camphill the butcher. I'll have to play the 12-year-old boy because I cannot have one of you right here beside me. So let me get the coat that he wore to go out in the mild winter and the hat that he put on his head. Just a moment. Oh, look. He has a woolly hat. This one doesn't even have earmuffs because after all, the winter is so mild, it feels like spring outside. And look, he has a quilted coat here, and he's going to put that on. Oh, here we go. Oh, how cozy. How cozy with a hat and a coat, and we can go out on a mild December day. Oh, and Zlateh has to come too, Zlateh. And we need to just put a little rope around his neck, around her neck, to lead her on the way. Here we go. Now we're ready to go to town. Now Zlateh was a very obedient goat. She loved the people and she trusted them. And she was very good friends with Aaron, almost like a sister to him. And so she didn't hesitate to go out and walk down the road with Aaron on the way to town. But Zlateh had never been on that road, and she got confused and asked, "Meh, meh." That's how she said, "Where are we going?" And Aaron, he had to buckle up because he actually was very sad to be taking his dear friend to the butcher. And at home, Mother and his sisters were also crying because they didn't want to see Zlateh go away, let alone go away to the butcher. But Aaron kept up, as we say, a stiff upper lip and just led his goat on the way. And then something extraordinary happened. The sky got dark. It turned black. It got purple. It started to rain. And the rain turned into hail. And frozen little ice balls the size of golf balls started to fall down from the heavens. And then the hail turned to snow. And the temperature dropped. And the wind came up. And the snow blew all around. And Zlateh said, "Meh, meh," meaning, "Why did you bring me out here in this storm?" And this was no ordinary storm. The snow started to come ferociously down, and the temperature dropped way below freezing, and before you knew it, Aaron was up halfway to his knees in snow, and his hands were cold, and he could hardly move his fingers, and his nose felt like wood, and his ears, oh, how he wished he had ear flaps on his hat. And Zlateh, in the end, wouldn't move. "Meh, I thought I could trust human beings, but now they've betrayed me. Now they're punishing me. I will freeze to death." And in that moment, as the snow was getting deeper and deeper, you could hardly see in front of you for all the whirling and blowing snowflakes. Aaron folded his hands and prayed to his God. "Dear God, don't let me perish. Don't let me die in the blizzard. And please, take care of Zlateh. She's just one of your innocent creatures." And then, in that moment, it was as if Aaron's prayer and he turned, and across the field he saw something big, covered with white. And he knew from living in the country that it must be a haystack covered with snow. I have a bucket of hay out there. Can you bring it? Do you think you can find my hay and bring it in? Somewhere there's a little bucket of hay. I need my hay for my haystack. There was a terrible storm. But look, maybe this was a haystack. And Aaron took his stick and he poked at it. He poked at it. He poked at it. He poked at the snow. It's a gray bucket is out there with hay in it. He poked at it, and he poked at it, and he poked at it. There we go. And then he found that indeed it was a haystack. Beautiful, fresh, sweet-smelling hay was under the snow. And then he took his stick more, and he poked a big hole into the haystack so that he and Zlateh could crawl inside. Come on, little goat. Come on into the haystack. Well, I won't put Zlateh and I won't put myself in the haystack. Otherwise, I can't tell you the rest of the story. So just imagine that we're both inside the haystack. And imagine what it is for a goat to have a roof of hay, to have walls of hay, to have a floor of hay. What is your favorite food? Pizza, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, chocolate, ice cream, Fruit Loops. Imagine your little room is covered with that from head to toe, from foot to floor, or foot to roof. And so the goat was so happy. And you know what the goat said? "Meh. Thank you, Aaron, for bringing me to such a wonderful place." Because it was warm inside the haystack and sweet smelling, and the hay was just so lovely. And Aaron came in out of the storm also. And he took out from his pocket his bread and cheese, which his parents had packed for him. And he ate that to fill his tummy. But you know, in that cold weather, after all that walking, after all that snow, after digging into the haystack, Aaron was still hungry. Now, Zlateh was used to being milked, but she was not used to the boy crawling under her and squeezing her udder so that the milk flowed directly into his mouth. It was a warm milkshake from Zlateh's udder to Aaron's mouth. It was delicious, and Aaron felt happy and content, and Zlateh too. And as the storm raged on, they both cuddled up with each other, keeping each other warm, and they went to sleep. Now that blizzard raged for 3 days and 3 nights, and the snow piled up ever higher. And Aaron knew enough to poke a hole like a little window in the haystack so that fresh air could come in. And every time he was awake and able, he poked the hole in the haystack so the fresh air could come in. And oh, how Aaron dreamed. Aaron dreamed first that he had always lived in the snow, that there was nothing else besides snow, that the whole world was snow, and that he had no family and no house to go back to, and no shtetl where his father worked, to make the fur coats. No, he was a child of the snow. He and Zlateh were just snow beings. And other times he dreamed and remembered the warm summer days when the sun shone and everything was warm and the flowers were out and the birds were singing, and how he longed for that. And when he was awake, he told Zlateh stories, and she perked her ears. She really listened to him, to all the stories he told. And when he was done, she always said to him, "Ma, ma." Thank you for the story. Now somewhere after the third night was running its course, but before dawn, it suddenly got very, very quiet outside. And Aaron, with her stick, he actually pushed open the doorway to their haystack. He pushed all the snow out, and he crawled out of the haystack. And he looked out on the serene winter night, on the amazing snow landscape. "Oh," he said, "this is splendor from heaven." It looked like an icy, snowy paradise with no footprints, no wagon wheel prints, no roads. He couldn't see any cottages or anything in the distance, just a beautiful white snowscape, a splendor sent from heaven. And the stars were shining brightly, and how they reflected off the snow like jewels they were. And the silvery moon was rising, and it was just such a splendid sight. But Aaron still had no idea where they were and had no idea how they would get home. So he went back in the cozy haystack and cuddled up again next to Zlateh. And when morning came, the two of them came out of the haystack and they looked around. And in the distance, they could hear bells. They could hear cowbells. Ding-a-ling-a-ling-ling, ding-a-ling-a-ling-ling, ding-a-ling-a-ling-ling. And then they actually saw a cart, a horse-drawn cart, down on what must have been the road, which was still pretty full with snow. But the wagoner was finding his way. And when Aaron and the goat came out, Aaron said, "Which way? To the shtetl? Which way to my village?" He did not ask which way to town. He did not ask which way to Feifel, the butcher. That was unthinkable, because he and Zlateh now were truly brother and sister. They were truly one. They had bonded so dearly and so closely. Zlateh giving her milk to Aaron for those 3 days and nights, and Aaron standing over Zlateh, making sure she was warm in the haystack. And now they would find their way home together. And so as they walked along, and as they got closer to the village, Aaron's neighbors and Aaron's friends, and then Aaron's family, his father and mother, Reuben and Leah, and his sisters, Anna and Miriam, they all came out to greet him, and they hugged him and kissed him, for surely they thought he was lost and gone in that terrible blizzard. And they hugged and kissed Zlateh too, because she was now fully part of the family. And do you know, because the winter now was really cold, Reuben sold a lot of fur coats. Oh, this coat went for a good amount of money. And so did his other coat as well. And hats and scarves and mittens made out of fur. Everything sold. Reuben was never so busy, and he never had so much money in his pocket as when Aaron and Zlateh came home. There was no talk ever again of sending Zlateh to Camphill the butcher. And look, the family had everything it needed to celebrate Hanukkah. It had candles for the menorah. It had dreidels to spin and play. It had potatoes to grate and make latkes. And it had oil enough to fry those latkes into crispy potato pancakes. Zlateh was given a little pen outside the kitchen, but Zlateh was always welcome into the house. And Zlateh learned to eat latkes. Zlateh loved to eat potato pancakes with the family. And Aaron's little sisters always gave him the extra carrot tops and the potato skins. And Zlateh was fully a member of their family. And when Aaron would say to him, "Zlateh, do you remember the 3 days and nights we spent in the haystack?" Zlateh would answer, "Meh, meh." "Yes, I remember." And Aaron, "I love you." Now, to bring my story to a close, we have a little Hanukkah song from that time. There's English words to it. O Hanukkah, come light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the hora. Gather round the table, we'll give you a treat. Shiny tops to play with and latkes to eat. And while we are playing, the candles are burning low. One for each night, they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. So that brings our story to an end of Zlateh the Goat. A Hanukkah story, but it's a universal story about the connection between a little boy and his goat, and how they may appear different, but how they are one in the community of the world. Goodbye, have a great day, enjoy the spring, and I look forward to see you next week.